Hey folks, how's it going? This is Iron Seagull here, back with the 50th episode of my Sims 4 wishlist. Thank you so much for supporting this series over the years. It's been so fun making these and actually having a more in-depth chance of fleshing out all the ideas that I do want to see rather than just talking about them in passing. And some of them have come true as well, because what I've also done is I've gone back to the titles of my Sims 4 wishlist episodes where those ideas have made it into the game, at least in some form, and added a check mark to them. Hopefully even more of those come true in the future. And I didn't actually realize this was going to be the 50th episode until after I completed my pools one. So I was trying to think what sort of idea would I discuss for the landmark 50th episode. And I realized this could be an interesting one. It's also an idea that I think could apply better to The Sims 5 even, but it would be pretty cool if they did manage to consider this idea and implement it into The Sims 4. And that is more kind of hybrid rabbit holes rather than something being 100% a rabbit hole, because I personally am not a huge fan of rabbit holes most of the time. I mean, for base game careers, it's totally fine, but especially when it comes to pack content, I feel like rabbit holes are more often than not cutting corners, especially in the more recent games. But I think they could do more of a compromise where you could kind of like go through the entrance of a place and there would be a room that you could explore and do stuff in, and then there would be a door or something like that that your Sims would go through, and then there's the rabbit hole. So at least there is some interactivity and not just the shell of a building or a cave or whatever that your Sims just disappear to and you get to see none of, and just maybe imagine cool stuff is happening, or get chance cards that dictate what happens to your Sims at the end. I think the jungle in Salvadorada is a good example of what I'm trying to explain, because it's not like the entire jungle is a rabbit hole. You have these different sections of the jungle that open up each time, and there are those archways that you go through that work like rabbit holes, and then there's those chance cards that pop up, but then when you're done with that, you still get to explore another part of the jungle and find collectibles, potentially get attacked by insects, and that sort of stuff. So it is still very explorable, even though there are rabbit holes scattered throughout the experience. And I think that would be interesting if they managed to pull off more of this. I'll use a few other rabbit holes as examples of what they could have done. I'm not saying go back and update these rabbit holes at all, because that's definitely not realistic. But like with that cave in Island Living, instead of the Sims just disappearing into a black hole for a bit and sometimes finding something valuable, it could be where you go into the entrance. There could be a loading screen, or maybe not, but perhaps it could be somewhat like the Forgotten Grotto hidden lot in Oasis Springs, where you're in this cave and there's some collectibles you could find. Maybe you could fish if there's some water. But then the difference could be that there would be multiple other entrances you see from there that your Sim could go through, and those would be the black holes that they would disappear into, and then there's chance cards that could pop up that dictate the outcome. So even though that would still be partially a rabbit hole, it's still better than the entire experience being one and leaving everything up to imagination. At least you would have that one room that would set the mood and give a better idea in your mind of how the whole thing would look, even if you can't see all of it. Another example could be the movie theater in Growing Together. I mean, generally, first of all, I hate how with the doors and windows, you can't see inside of it at all, so it makes it not stand out as much from the actual decor buildings that do nothing. But with the movie theater, I think it would have been really nice if we could at least go into just the general entrance area where you could buy the tickets. You could buy some snacks if you want, and they even have some arcade machines. Then maybe when it comes to viewing the movies in the theater, then those rooms would be rabbit holes still. Ideally, I would not want it to be that way even, because I would prefer a full movie theater experience, like say even that venue in the Sims 3 store that allowed you to do that, but more fleshed out. That would definitely take its own game pack, and I don't feel like it's all that likely for it to happen in The Sims 4. One last example I want to bring up is the Equestrian Center, because I think there could have been more immersion if we could see inside at least part of it. I just feel it was a weird execution that we do have that lot that we can edit, which is good, where our Sims can practice with their horses before the competitions. But maybe you could also have a similar area inside of the Equestrian Center, and then there would be a door that your Sims and their horses go into, and that's how they do the competition, because I think them actually acting out the competitions that you could see would, well, take a very long time, especially when you factor in simulation lag. But the hardest part for sure is trying to come up with new ones for packs that haven't been done yet, because The Sims 4 has already done so many of the conventional pack ideas at this point. So I guess like if we get a fairies pack, maybe if they put in some sort of tunnel system, don't make it fully rabbit hole this time, because as much as I love the werewolves pack, I wish we had been able to actually see some of the tunnels and see like one or more of the areas, because I love the world of Moonwood Mill. It would have been really interesting to have that layer where we could see underground. And actually, on a similar underground note, but with a little more realism to it, if we get a bands pack with a city world, then I think this could be their chance to bring back subway stations, but not as a full-on rabbit hole this time, because they could work as a nice place for your Sims to just practice out in the world, and it could be where, yeah, you would go down into the subway station, buy the tickets, reenact the Persona 5 main menu screen if you want, and then if you want to go into the actual subway, then that would be a rabbit hole where your Sim fades into it, and then they go to another place in the world. I know hotels have become a pretty popular request lately, and I could imagine them doing something similar to The Sims 3 Island Paradise, where you can still create your own hotel rooms if you want, but you also have the option of those towers that you can place down where they are rabbit holes, and then that way you can have a lot more guests staying at your hotel without having to worry about the simulation lag of having that many actual Sims simulating the whole time that they're there. I think Sims 5 is where they could more fully realize this idea, because say for example, maybe the base game could have an office building and then you're able to go inside of it, but just to the reception area where you see the secretary working. And then if they made the process of applying for a job a lot more realistic, where you have to go for job interviews, then there could be a boardroom or something where you get interviewed in. That would not be a rabbit hole still, but then you wouldn't see any Sims like simulating their office work or any of that stuff, so then that would still take the load off, but at least there would still be a place, a tangible place you could really visit that's not just a shell that you go inside that basically is a black hole. So overall, I think having more hybrid rabbit holes could help be a compromise between performance and the world feeling more immersive. I know with Life by You, they're not planning on having any rabbit holes at all, but with the game not even being out yet, I'm not sure how well that would work out in the long run, if that would compromise the game's performance a lot. So that's why I'm still suggesting some sort of rabbit hole component instead of just everything being visible all the time. So that is it for the 50th episode of My Sims 4 Wishlist. How appropriate this ended up releasing very shortly after the 9th anniversary of The Sims 4. So feel free to let me know your thoughts on this idea in the comment section below, and if this is something you would like to see in the future of not just The Sims 4, but The Sims in general. And thank you once again for watching this series. I wonder how many episodes I'll do of this before it's time to start my Sims 5 wish list. But yeah, these videos are really fun to do. And with that, be sure to subscribe if you'd like to keep up with my latest gaming content. I will talk to you all later, and have a great day. Thanks for watching!